Welcome back to Froggy French, where we dive into the most intriguing stories from across the internet. Today, we have 5 absolutely wild Reddit tales that will make you question reality itself, from mysterious roommate situations to underground high school economies. These stories showcase just how bizarre and unexpected everyday life can become when you least expect it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy these kinds of captivating narratives, and drop a comment below letting us know where in the world you're listening from. My roommate leaves weird notes everywhere, and I think he might not exist, so this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but I need to get this off my chest because I'm starting to question my own sanity. I'm 22 and moved into this shared apartment in downtown Portland about 3 months ago. The rent was suspiciously cheap, like $600 for my own room in a 2-bedroom place. But the landlord said my roommate Jake was already covering most of the utilities and just needed someone reliable. Here's the thing though, I have never actually seen Jake, not once. But every single day, I find these little yellow sticky notes around the apartment with advice or reminders. At first I thought it was sweet, like welcome notes. The first one was on my bedroom door saying, "Don't forget to jiggle the handle on the washing machine or it won't start properly." Then there was one on the fridge about how the milk goes. Bad 2 days before the expiration date, but then they started getting weirdly specific to my life. Last Tuesday, I was stressed about a job interview, and I found a note on my coffee mug that said, "Remember to mention your volunteer work at the animal shelter. Employers love that stuff." I'd never told anyone about that interview. Yesterday, I was running late for class, and there was a note on my backpack saying, "Take the bus instead of walking. There's construction on 5th Street today." And there was construction. I've tried staying up late to catch him, but I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, and I work early shifts at this coffee shop downtown. His bedroom door is always closed, and I never hear any movement. The weird part is his room definitely looks lived in when I peek under the door. I can see clothes on the floor, and the light changes throughout the day. My friends think I'm losing it, and that maybe I'm just writing these notes myself, and forgetting about it due to stress. But the handwriting doesn't look like mine, and how would I know about random stuff like construction schedules? Maybe I'm overreacting, but this whole situation is making me feel like I'm going insane. Has anyone else experienced something like this? Or am I having some kind of breakdown? Okay, this is genuinely giving me chills. I want to believe there's a logical explanation here, but those details about the job interview and the construction are just too specific to be coincidental. Part of me is wondering if maybe Jake works night shifts and you're just missing each other completely. But the fact that he somehow knows about your personal stuff is really unsettling. I had a roommate once who I barely saw because our schedules were opposite, but he never knew intimate details about my life. Have you tried leaving him a note back asking to meet up? This whole thing sounds like the beginning of a psychological thriller movie, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'd be more scared or curious if I were in your shoes. Well, let's hope the next one is a bit more grounded in reality. I think my boss is stealing my ideas, so I've been sabotaging his startup. I work as a marketing coordinator for this mid-sized tech company in Austin, and I've been there for about 2 years now. My boss, David, is probably in his late 30s and has always been pretty cool with me, or so I thought. I'm 26, and this is my first real job out of college, so I've been trying really hard to impress everyone and come up with creative campaign ideas. About 4 months ago, I started noticing that some of my unused concepts were popping up in weird places. A friend sent me a link to this new app that had almost the exact same tagline I had pitched for our client's social media campaign. Then I saw a startup's Instagram ad that used this really specific visual metaphor I had suggested in a brainstorm meeting that David had shot down. I started paying more attention and realized that David has been running his own consulting business on the side. I found his LinkedIn profile where he's promoting himself as a creative strategist and showcasing work that looked suspiciously familiar. The final straw was when I saw a presentation he gave at some marketing conference that included 3 of my ideas word for word, so I decided to test my theory. I started pitching increasingly ridiculous concepts during our meetings, but I made them sound professional and well thought out. Last month, I suggested a campaign where the main character would be a talking houseplant that gives financial advice to millennials. 2 weeks later, guess what showed up on his consulting website? Then, I pitched an idea about using interpretive dance to explain cryptocurrency to senior citizens. I even created fake market research to support it. Sure enough, he's now promoting himself as an expert in kinesthetic financial education. The thing is, I'm not sure if I should confront him directly or report this to HR. I kind of enjoy watching him make a fool of himself with these absurd ideas, but I'm also worried this could backfire on me somehow. Maybe I'm being too petty about this whole situation, but it feels good to finally have some control. What would you do in this situation? Keep feeding him bad ideas or take the professional route? Oh my god, this is actually hilarious and brilliant at the same time. The fact that he's out there promoting interpretive dance cryptocurrency education with a straight face is just chef's kiss level revenge. I mean, what you're doing is technically unethical since you're kind of setting him up to fail, but he literally started it by stealing your work in the first place. I'm torn between admiring your creativity and worrying that this could seriously damage your career if it comes out. Have you thought about documenting everything first before you decide whether to escalate this? Honestly, though, the talking, houseplant giving financial advice might actually be a decent idea in today's weird marketing landscape. Moving on to another workplace drama that's hopefully less elaborate. My neighbor buries something in his yard every morning at 3:47, and I finally found out what. I live in this quiet suburban neighborhood outside of Denver, and about 6 months ago, I started having really bad insomnia. I'd lie awake for hours, and eventually just give up and make coffee around 3:30 in the morning. That's when I first noticed my neighbor Greg doing something really strange in his backyard. Every single morning at exactly 3:47, this guy would come outside in his pajamas carrying a small shovel and what looked like a Ziploc bag. He'd walk to different spots in his yard, dig a small hole, bury whatever was in the bag, and then go back inside. This happened literally every day, rain or shine. At first I thought maybe he was burying pet ashes or something sentimental, but it was way too frequent for that. Then I started wondering if it was something illegal, like drugs or stolen goods. I even considered calling the police a few times. But what would I say? My neighbor is gardening at weird hours. The whole thing was driving me crazy, so I decided to do some investigating. I started keeping a log of where he buried stuff and noticed he never repeated the same spot twice. After about 2 months of this, I was so curious that I actually snuck over one morning after he went inside and dug up one of the fresh holes. What I found was completely unexpected. It was a Ziploc bag containing a single handwritten note that said, Day 112. Still thinking about the argument we had over the fence height. Hope you're sleeping better than I am. Sorry for being stubborn. Turns out Greg has been burying apology letters to his ex-wife, who used to live in my house before I moved in 8 months ago. According to my landlord, they had gotten divorced over some pretty petty neighborhood disputes, and she moved out last year. Greg apparently didn't realize someone new had moved in and has been leaving these underground messages thinking she might find them eventually. I felt terrible for reading something so personal, but now I don't know what to do with this information. Should I tell him she doesn't live here anymore? Or just pretend I never saw anything? This is honestly one of the most heartbreaking and sweet things I've read in a while. Like, the image of this guy burying love letters every morning thinking his ex-wife might dig them up is just crushing my heart. It's also kind of romantic in a really sad way, but also completely ineffective as a communication strategy. I think you should definitely tell him, but maybe do it gently, because this is clearly someone who's really struggling with the end of his marriage. You could even offer to forward the letters if you have her contact info, though that might be overstepping. This whole situation is just proof that people deal with heartbreak in the weirdest possible ways. Well, let's hope the next story involves slightly less emotional excavation. I thought my girlfriend was cheating, but she was actually planning something completely different. I've been with Sarah for almost 3 years now, and we're both 28. We've been living together for about 8 months, and things have been pretty solid between us, or at least I thought they were until recently. About 2 months ago, Sarah started acting really secretive. She'd get mysterious phone calls that she'd take in another room. She was suddenly working late way more often, and she kept leaving the apartment for hours on weekends without really explaining where she was going. When I'd ask, she'd just say she was running errands or meeting friends. The thing that really got to me was finding receipts in her purse for expensive stuff I'd never seen. There was one for a $200 dinner at this fancy restaurant downtown that we've never been to together. Another one was for some boutique clothing store, but she hadn't brought home any new clothes. I started wondering if she was taking someone else to these places. Then last week I saw her texting someone saved in her phone as M, And when I walked into the room, she quickly closed the conversation. Later that night, I noticed she'd changed her phone passcode, which she'd never done before in our entire relationship. I was pretty much convinced she was seeing someone else, but I didn't want to be that guy who goes through his girlfriend's stuff or follows her around. Instead, I decided to just ask her directly if everything was okay between us. She got really flustered and said everything was fine, but then immediately changed the subject. Yesterday, everything finally made sense. Sarah surprised me with this elaborate proposal at our favorite hiking spot. Turns out M was her friend Michelle who was helping her plan everything. The expensive dinner was her meeting with my parents to ask for their blessing. And all those mysterious errands were her shopping for rings and coordinating with our friends for a surprise party afterward. I feel like such an idiot for doubting her, but honestly the secrecy was really convincing. Maybe I should have just trusted her more. But her behavior change was pretty dramatic, and I think anyone would have been suspicious. Has anyone else completely misread a situation like this? Or am I just paranoid by nature? Oh wow, this is actually really sweet, and I'm so happy it turned out to be a proposal instead of an affair. But honestly, you weren't being paranoid at all. Those are exactly the kind of behavioral changes that would make anyone suspicious in a relationship. The secretive phone calls, mysterious expenses, and password changes are like the classic cheating playbook, so your reaction was totally normal. Sarah probably didn't realize how sketchy she was being because she was focused on keeping the surprise. I bet this will be a funny story you tell at your wedding about how she accidentally made you think she was cheating while planning to propose. Moving on to another situation that hopefully involves less emotional whiplash. My students created an underground economy and I accidentally became their central banker. I'm a substitute teacher and I've been covering this high school economics class for about 6 weeks now, while their regular teacher is on medical leave. The students are mostly 17 and 18-year-olds, and at first I thought they were just typical seniors who didn't want to pay attention to anything. But then I started noticing some really weird behavior during lunch and between classes. Kids would discreetly hand each other small objects, and there seemed to be a lot of negotiating and whispering going on. At first I thought it might be drugs or something concerning, so I started paying closer attention. What I discovered was actually pretty impressive. These students have created their own complete economic system within the school. They've got their own currency made from these little paper tokens with hand-drawn symbols, and they trade everything from homework help to snacks to phone chargers. There's even a complex exchange rate system between different types of services. The really crazy part is how sophisticated it's gotten. They have established credit systems, they charge interest on loans, and there's even some kid who acts like a stockbroker trading futures contracts on cafeteria pizza quality. I watched one student basically run a derivatives market based on predicting snow days. Where I come into this is that they started asking me economics questions that were way more advanced than anything in their textbook. They wanted to know about inflation, monetary policy, and market regulation. Without realizing it, I became their unofficial financial advisor, helping them solve problems with their currency stability and trade. Disputes. Last week they asked if I wanted to join their system and offered to make me an honorary member with special teacher privileges. I said yes mostly, because I was curious, and now somehow I'm helping them prevent their economy from collapsing due to counterfeit tokens. The regular teacher comes back next week, and I'm not sure if I should tell her about this whole operation. Part of me thinks it's actually brilliant applied learning, but I'm also worried they might get in trouble for running unauthorized businesses on school property. Should I protect their secret economy or report this to the administration? This is honestly the coolest thing I've heard about teenagers in years. Like, these kids are basically recreating the entire financial system from scratch and learning more practical economics than most adults understand. The fact that they're dealing with inflation and derivatives trading in high school is just incredible. I think you should definitely tell the regular teacher, but frame it as this amazing educational opportunity rather than something they're doing wrong. Any economics teacher would probably be thrilled to discover their students are this engaged with the subject material, even if it's happening outside of official class time. This is exactly the kind of real-world application that makes learning stick. Thanks so much for sticking with us through all 5 of these incredible stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts on which tale surprised you the most in the comments section below. Don't forget to check out the Google form link in our description, where you can submit your own anonymous stories for us to feature in upcoming episodes. Your submissions will be read completely anonymously and could become part of our next video series. Please consider subscribing to our channel for more fascinating content like this, and we'll see you soon for another collection of unbelievable real-life experiences.